Hi, welcome to the virtual orientation for the 212 QB Jay Flight by Jayco. We're going to begin our orientation on the outside, and we're going to begin near the front. The first thing that we'll talk about is your door side access to your front pass-through storage compartment. You will see in this compartment we have a few items, some of which are missing. So there's been a supply issue with the Blackstone grills. However, they still supply the mounting hardware for it and give you I think a voucher of some sort for the grill once it's available. So I haven't installed the grill for the simple fact that there isn't one to fully install. But I will talk about it a little bit. You'll see that it has a square channel, kind of a hitch receiver or insert like apparatus there. Well, you will see that on the trailer here, that simply just dry fits in there. There's a quick connect propane port for when you do actually get the grill, and a valve on that port, which at the moment that valve is closed. That would be the open position. So connect your quick connect hose from the grill to here, and then connect the other end to the grill itself. You make sure that this is open like that, and then you should be able to light the grill as you would any other kind of barbecue or grill. So the receiver, we put this in there, and then on this end here, that is where this goes. And then your Blackstone grill sits on top with its feet going through these holes here. And then here is your quick connect hose. So I hope that's useful enough for now anyways, until we get the grills. Anyways, moving on. Also in this front storage compartment, we'll find the crank for your electric tongue jack and your crank for your stabilization jacks. Speaking of the stabilization jacks, there's one right here. They are located at the four corners of the RV. They should never be used to level your RV. They should only ever be used to stabilize. So in order to do that, you would snug these up to the ground or any cribbing or blocking you might have. I recommend the 6x6s. They seem just to be the easiest to use. So depending on how level the ground is where you're camping, you may need to use some cribbing or blocking. So then in that instance, you would snug this up to the cribbing or blocking or the ground once you are fully level. As we stand up here, we'll make note of and take a look at these side marker lights. Now these side marker lights, you'll notice, are a little bit thicker, and while this particular one has the actual camera installed, they do not come standard. However, this is an add-on, so there is a side view camera, one on each side, and then a rear view camera as well. A separate purchase, but definitely very handy and worth having. This particular unit does have them installed. It's pre-wired. You simply remove a piece of the housing and insert the camera, make the connection, and then put the light back together. We'll come to your propane bottle cover, propane storage area, your battery storage, and your tongue jack, all on the A-frame of the trailer here. First, we'll begin by removing the bottle covers for the propane system. We've already made note of your battery storage. Now directly in front of that, we have your propane system. This is a double 30-pound bottle system connected with a crossover regulator. What does that mean? Well, your crossover regulator, you'll see that there's a handle and it's pointing to this tank. That means that the regulator will draw from this tank first. Once this tank gets below the predetermined amount of pressure, and that's predetermined by the regulator itself, and it's non-adjustable. Once this tank gets below the predetermined amount of pressure, it automatically cross over and draw propane from this bottle regardless of where the handle's pointing. What that means is, on a cold night, if you have your furnace on and you run out of propane, you do not have to get out, get cold, and switch the bottles over. You can just keep on sleeping and stay all snug and warm, and the regulator will do that for you. All right, also in this front tongue area, we have your safety breakaway switch. Now the safety breakaway switch is connected via this loop end to the tow vehicle and to the trailer via this pin in the housing of this breakaway switch itself. In the event that the tow vehicle becomes separated from your RV, this pin will pull free of the housing and engage your trailer brakes. Now, I have heard of it happening a time or two that during hitch up, the cable gets either, you know, stepped on or pulled somehow, kicked or whatever, and the pin gets pulled partially free of the housing, but not all the way. But it's enough to engage the brakes, but not enough for it to fall completely out of the housing. So if you do feel like your trailer brakes are engaged and they shouldn't be, this would be one of the first places I would start. Just make sure that the pin is fully seated into the housing. Before we leave the front tongue area, we'll take a minute to talk about your electric tongue jack. We'll make note of the light on the front, good for loading at night or hitching up at night. We also have the rubber stopper or rubber port here. This is what you would remove in order to get at the crank for your manual crank for your tongue jack. This will allow you access to that point, so that in the case of no power or a failure of the jack itself, you still have the ability to get it on and off your tow vehicle. You're not stuck dragging the trailer around behind you until you can get it fixed. Continue to make our way around. We'll just make a note. I talked about it on the other side. The side view camera installed on this unit. If we open the off-door side of your front pass-through storage compartment, this is where you'll usually find your 30 amp power cable. This will allow you to connect to the electricity of either the campground or your home or wherever it is that you have your trailer plugged in. Now, some campgrounds, either because the site's not available or there's just no power sites at all, you may not be able to use or plug this 30 amp plug directly in to the campground power or the power at home. Most of us don't have a 30 amp plug on the outside of our house. So in that instance, we have a conversion block to convert you down from a 30 amp to a 15 amp plug or receptacle. So that way, if you get stuck, there's not any sites left with power. Sometimes they'll still have like a 15 amp power source that you can at least plug in and power your refrigerator and some small items. You just would be unable to do your air conditioner. So as we continue our way along the outside, we'll make note of the black and gray water output here, as well as the gray water valve handle and the black water valve handle. Also right here we have low point drains. These low point drains can be used to drain the system of water. At the moment they are both closed. So we continue to move towards the back on the off-door side here. We'll make note of your city water connection. So much like in your house where you have a connection point to the city itself, where the water flows from the city's pipes into your pipes in your home, you could label that as your city water connection. That's the point at which your house connects to the city and the city's water supply pressurizes your house, and then you can turn your taps on and everything works. Well, this is kind of the same idea. This is the point at which the garden hose, either from your campground or from your house, is connected to the RV. Once it's connected and the tap is turned on, it then pressurizes the system, and it will work just like the pressurized system at home. Directly above that, we have your black tank flush. Before utilizing your black tank flush, there's a few things that you should do. One, make sure that you're connected to the sanitary system at the campground that you're at, or you have a connection to a sanitary system. So fully connect it to the sanitary system. Make sure your sewer hose is in the sewer. You want to pull your black tank valve, make sure it's open. And once you know that's open, you're connected to the sewer, then you can connect your garden hose to here. And with the black tank valve open, you would turn on the tap, put water to the system. Never ever turn the water on when the black tank valve is closed there. You're just asking to have an unpleasant situation that backflows and fills up inside your RV. We have an outdoor shower here, which is always handy. And then beside that, we have your venting for your refrigerator. Now, this outdoor access or venting for your refrigerator, it's important to keep this obstruction free, as maximum airflow is required for the proper operation of the refrigerator. Directly below that, we have your 30 amp connection point to the RV. So the cord that I showed you earlier, you connect the one end here, and then the other end gets connected to the campground's power supply or the power supply from your home. Directly beside that, we have your main input for the cable or satellite for the RV. And directly beside that, we have your potable water fill point. So, if for whatever reason you decide to fill this, I mean, it's your freshwater tank, so you'd fill it with fresh potable water. But if you decide that you need to use it, you can utilize it with the onboard water pump. But you have to pre-fill this ahead of time before you leave for your trip. Fill your tank, and then you can use the onboard water pump to pressurize the water system, much like the city water connection does. Some reasons why you may need to fill your freshwater tank would be, one, you're going to a campground but they don't have drinkable water, so maybe you would like to have some fresh water on board. Or two, you're just camping someplace either off-grid or in a site that just doesn't have a water supply. So in that instance, you fill your freshwater tank and you use your water pump to pressurize the system. And in order to drain that freshwater tank, once you've filled it, if you want to do so, we have your low point drain here. At the moment it's closed. However, you would open it by turning it the other direction. Alright, as we continue along the outside of the RV here, we'll make note of a couple things in your outside access to your hot water tank. One being the drain cap and the other being the pressure relief valve. Before you ever remove your drain cap or plug or anode rod or whatever it is that you have, always make sure that this pressure relief valve is opened. As the name states, it relieves the pressure from the tank. That way this isn't pressurized when it finally lets go of the last thread, and won't come shooting out at you and take out a kneecap or something worse. Alright, as we come around the back, we'll make note of the rear view camera here. Now this rear view camera is used along with the two side view cameras. Again, they are an extra or an add-on that this particular customer has decided to purchase. They do not come standard. However, they do come pre-wired for those cameras. So when you do purchase those cameras and you use them, they are used along with a head unit that can be used inside the tow vehicle while in transit or while stationary, whatever you prefer. But it gives you access to view the sides and the back of the RV while moving, or you can also use it while stationary. We'll come to the door side again. We have our awning. We have a nice awning light underneath at the trailer side of the awning. And another thing we'll note is your two speakers. Those speakers under your awning can be used inside the RV along with the stereo that is provided. A couple other things to finish up on this side. We've talked about the receiver for your drill. Let's talk a bit about your mounting location for a TV, as well as your output for the cable and satellite, and a 120 volt power supply. This allows you to easily watch TV underneath your awning if you choose to do so. And then directly above here we have the venting for your rain hood inside. A quick note to make here is that this venting, I don't know if you can see it well enough, I can't see it on the camera myself, hopefully you can. You have these tabs here. When in transit or when not in use, you lock these tabs in, but in order to actually use your rain hood, you have to make sure these are unclipped and it's able to flap like that. So in transit or not in use, click those closed. Otherwise, flick those tabs up and allow the vent to actually function properly. All right, I think that about does it for the outside of the RV. Let's step inside and take a look and see what we can find. Straight in through the door, if we turn around and look down, the first thing that we'll notice is the unit's fire extinguisher. The fire extinguisher is an important piece of safety equipment, and I hope everybody familiarizes themselves with it, learns how to use it properly. But I like the position of it just inside the door, easy to access from the outside if you're cooking outside, but also easy to access inside when cooking inside. Another important piece of safety equipment is your carbon monoxide propane detector. This system will alarm if it detects either of those things. However, it's important to note, and I believe if you read through here it will tell you the same, just in a lot smaller print, that different things can set this off that aren't necessarily of concern. The most notable would be paint. So if you're doing any painting in the area, be aware that that will set this off. So you see that there is a green light there that would indicate the system is functioning properly. Right above that green light there is a button. If you press that button, it'll issue a series of loud beeps. The light will turn from green to red and then go back to green and stay a solid green if the system is functioning properly. So when you do test the system, you press this button and wait for it to go back to a solid green light to indicate you're good to go. I usually suggest that we test the carbon monoxide propane detector along with, I don't know if you can see it in the video, your smoke detector. So the general rule of thumb for your smoke detector is to change the batteries every 6 months or daylight savings time. Or I suggest that in the name of safety that you might as well every 6 months when you're checking your smoke detector also go ahead and press that button on your carbon monoxide propane detector and just make sure it's functioning properly. Okay. Also in this area, this is a very important area, there's a lot going on here. Also in this area we have the controls for your awning in and out, right here, as well as switching for the main lights of the RV and the awning light. Also here we have your indication panel. This will allow you to see the level of your battery and your gray and black water tanks respectively, as well as your freshwater tank. Also here we have a switch for your water pump and switching for your hot water tank on gas and electricity. With these newer systems, you no longer have to go outside and manually light a pilot for your appliances. So all you should have to do is turn the switch on and they should light for you. If we turn around 180 degrees here, we will see your thermostat. This is a capacitive touch thermostat, meaning that it's not mechanically depressed, it's just a nice light touch to cycle through all your options and modes. We have your fan set to auto, high or low. We have your AC and your furnace as well. Now the one thing I will note here, if you have the fan set to high, it will automatically turn the reefer fan on to achieve a high fan. So if you're trying to use your furnace, you want it to be warm in here, and the fan's on high, it's going to also turn on the reefer fan, which will make it a lot noisier. So just be aware, if that reefer fan comes on when you turn the furnace on and you don't want that, come back to here, go to mode, cycle through your options and turn it off high and just put it on auto. Okay, earlier outside I was talking about the conversion block to convert from a 15 amp plug to a 30 amp plug, and this is it here. For whatever reason we always seem to put them in the sink here, but that way you'll know where it is when you need to find it. If we just slide on over into the kitchen area here, come to your cooktop and stove. Very important first thing to note here, before you ever try to light this appliance, always make sure you flip the glass cooktop open fully. And after you're done using it, make sure it's fully cooled before you close it. I'd hate to see anybody break their glass top. To light it, now that the glass is open and out of the way, you turn the knob to the light position and then turn the automatic sparker. The gas is turned off at the moment, so we're not getting any flame. But you do that for the 3 top burners. And in order to light the bottom burner in the oven here, first always make sure you open the appliance and leave it open while trying to light. Turn it to the light position like such. You're going to turn this sparking knob like you did before. The difference is, while you're turning the knob, you need to press and hold this knob in order to emit the gas. So press and hold this knob in while you turn the sparker to light your oven. Take a look at your refrigerator. The refrigerator will operate on auto or gas. The gas obviously will just be gas. So if you're trying to light it just on gas and you see a flashing light here, that would indicate that there was a problem with the lighting procedure. Oftentimes it's a matter of either the valves on the bottles out front aren't open, or they've just been opened and there's some air in the system that needs to be purged first. So I would always recommend lighting these first before you try to light one of your other large appliances. So by lighting the range top first, you can purge the system of air. Once the system is purged of air, come back to the refrigerator, make sure your valves are open on the front, and then you can relight the appliance and it should light just fine. And if we squat down here and take a look directly below your refrigerator, we'll notice we have your load center for the RV. Your load center is where you'll find your breakers, much like you'd see in your house, and they function pretty much the same way. And you'll see your fuses like you might see in your vehicle, and they operate much the same way. Again, the one big difference here is when there is a fuse or a circuit that is not functioning as it should, you will see a red LED light that lights up beside the affected fuse. So we stand up and we'll go towards the rear of the RV and we'll take a look at your stereo. Now when we were outside and looking at the underneath your awning, we made note of the speakers. Those speakers can be used with this stereo via these zones. Zone 1 will play your sound inside the RV. Zone 2 will give you sound on the speakers that we mentioned previously. Along with the dual zones, we also have Bluetooth connectivity, an auxiliary port, HDMI connectivity, and charging capabilities via a USB port. We're not going to take a lot of time to talk about your television. The one thing that you do need to make note of or be aware of would be the antenna booster. So your antenna booster, you can't really see it where I am now, and it's kind of hard to do one-handed, so we'll talk about it. There's a button on your antenna where your cable plugs into the roof or wall of your RV. That button will turns the booster for your antenna on and off. If you see the green light on, that would indicate that the booster is on. And that's fine if you're watching free channels just over the air via the antenna. That's what you want, it will boost the signal. However, if you're trying to watch your cable or satellite and you have your antenna booster on, there's a good chance that it is going to interfere with the signal from your satellite or cable company, so you'll need to press that button and make sure that's turned on. Okay, we have a couple more things to talk about before I will set you free upon the world here. Another important piece of safety equipment or information would be your emergency exits. They are pretty straightforward, but it is an important thing to make sure you familiarize yourself with, know where they are located, and how to use them. We'd hate to have anybody have an emergency, but I would hate it even more if you did have one and weren't aware of where they were and how they functioned. So in order to open this emergency exit, it's pretty simple. There's no screen to get in your way. You merely flip these two tabs up, and that will allow the window to swing open and out, and you may escape to safety if you need to. We'll just make our way back towards the front of the RV. We have one more thing to talk about down here, and then we will wrap it up. And the most important thing to note up in the bedroom, other than I guess the bed, because it, you know, pretty comfy and important to sleep in, is this pre-wired location for your solar system. So the location here for the head unit, the wires are in the wall. It's easier to install. It's an extra, it's an add-on, but it is a lot easier to do it with the pre-wired location set up. And the other part of that system is on the roof, where you will find the connection point for the solar panels themselves. We lift up the bed here. We'll just make note of the underbed storage compartment with the supports for the bed. Nobody wants the bed in the back of the head. And lastly, we'll just make note of the wall-mounted bracket here, as well as the output for your cable or satellite, and the 120 volt power supply, giving you the ability to have a television in your bedroom as well. I forgot one thing that I want to talk to you about. That's talking about the AC system. You'll see that there's some baffling on the underside of the AC unit. With those baffles closed, it will force the air, or the majority of the air, to these ports located throughout the RV. There and there. However, with them open, it will allow most of the air to fall directly right here. Just an important distinction to make note of. Alright, that being said, I hope you found this video informative and useful. I thank you very much for listening. I appreciate the time you took in tuning in here. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, and we'll always do our best to answer your questions and make you feel comfortable before you leave with your new RV. Thank you.